Hey everyone, Al Fragnoli here. We got Zach Sooty. Um, we brought on Justin Kristich. Justin is the tournament director for the LECOM Suncoast Classic Tournament for professional golf. Justin, you're about 3 years removed from being the manager of ticket sales and assistant general manager for the Pittsburgh Pirates in their Florida operations department, along with the Bradenton Marauders, their single A affiliate. Thanks for joining us, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we thought we'd chat with a little bit about what's going on in minor league baseball world. Obviously, everybody's heard the news. Last Tuesday, minor league baseball decided to cancel their entire season. Justin, do you think it was the right decision for the league to cancel? And is there any way that they could have potentially tried to salvage a season and do a partial season similar to what Major League Baseball decided to do?
I think to start off, it really wasn't minor league baseball's decision. Their hand was pretty much forced with that when Major League Baseball said they weren't going to provide any players to the affiliate. So most people in the industry, you guys, that follow it too, pretty much are resigned to the fact that the season was going to be canceled. It wasn't a super shock to anybody, I don't think, who followed it. It's pretty contentious conversation already leading into the pandemic with the contraction talks as well. So I don't think there's anything minor league baseball could have done themselves, just because they're, like I said, they were held hostage by the fact that Major League Baseball just says we're not going to provide the players to the affiliates, and then there's nothing you can do from the minor league baseball standpoint. So for this year, I don't really know. I think minor league baseball is obviously dead. There's some ways around it for 2020. I think I read, was it Nashville Sounds are going to try to start up their own, kind of free agent type of league, which would be, I think, more MLB as opposed to MILB players. I think you might see that from some of these independently owned teams that are going to try to start their own leagues with like 2, 3, 4 teams all playing in one stadium. So there may be an opportunity there for some of these players to get paid and to play some competitive ball this year.
So Justin, as like an assistant GM, you get notified that the league is not going to happen. There's not going to be minor league baseball. Do you go into, if you're in that position during this pandemic, how do I create revenue?
Right.
Do you look for any source of revenue? I mean, I'm seeing that leagues are doing drive-in theaters. I saw some did some fireworks. I mean, do you get in the, professional wiffle ball leagues at the stadium or something where, if there's mass gatherings less than 25, I think professional wiffle ball, you only have 6 or 8 on a team. You can pull that kind of stuff off. I mean, in that position, what would you be trying to do to make sure your little town, your little city, creates jobs and creates revenue for the economy in the area?
I think part of it is just staying visible in the community too. And it might not necessarily just be revenue drivers. It's, buying pizza for the ER staff and the intensive care unit staff at your sponsored hospital. And it's doing some things that maybe cost you some money as well, but it's trying to stay visible. So when you do come back, you're going to get that community support. And I think that's what kind of leads into what you said about the fireworks and the drive-in. Those may drive a little bit of revenue. They're not subsidizing anything. That's just
They're not ticket sales.
Right. That's just something that, again, I think keep people engaged with you during the pandemic, and probably at best you're breaking even. Fireworks are expensive, and if you're trying to fit as many cars as you can, and at $5 or $10 a pop, you're breaking even at that point, because you still have to pay staff to be out there and pay security and those types of things. So I know I saw what the Pensacola Blue Wahoos are doing. They're Airbnb in their stadium out. Have you guys seen that one?
I noticed that. Yeah,
I've heard some places doing that. That's pretty cool.
Yep. So there's a little bit of difference. I think they actually have sleeping quarters in their stadium for people to actually be able to spend the night there. So that's a good idea. Again, things that keep them in the news, keep people paying attention to them. That's not driving really any, real revenue. I don't think it's not going to keep you afloat. I think the biggest decision these teams have to make in their conversations with season ticket holders and sponsors is, can we keep that money that we already charged up front and kind of toll it to the next year, so you don't lose all that cash flow. Again, every community, every team is going to be different and react in different ways, but to have those conversations with sponsors, season ticket holders, and kind of say, we really, in order for us to survive, we really need to keep the money that was paid to us already, and we'll turn that into your sponsorship or your season tickets next year instead of straight up refunding everybody. I think that's where you're going to see some serious problems with some of these teams and owners, is if they have to give all that money back and they have no cash flow. Because at the end of the day, you still have to pay rent. There's still a lot of expense. You have to maintain the stadium throughout the year. You can't just let your field go to hell. Like there's still a lot of expenses, even with a shutdown minor league season, that are going to be incurred. So you have money that's already in the bank. You really need to keep it in order to kind of survive. And it doesn't seem like loans are going to be very viable solutions for some of these teams, because banks aren't going to, they're not going to dole out money if they don't know which teams are going to be around next year. So, hopefully there's some kind of government bailout, but I think that's a conversation that's pretty far off right now.
So you mentioned about, the staff of the stadium operations and trying to keep those individuals employed, but what does it look like for the players without a season? What's next for them? I'm seeing some of the teams, they have their taxi squads. I know the Pittsburgh Pirates are operating out of Altoona, and some of their top prospects, AA, AAA players, are going to be in Altoona, just a few hour drive from Pittsburgh. But their number one their draft picks this year. Where do they go? What do they do? How do these teams, work on getting these players major league ready without minor league baseball?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that right now. Obviously, with the taxi squad, it's 60 guys? Is that what it is that you can hear? So that helps with your top prospects and the guys that you're counting on to become, major league players down the road. It's going to give them some experience, but you have several other affiliates to fill down the road. Those guys are all, released or have nowhere to play. From a financial standpoint, luckily most organizations at this point have agreed to pay, that weekly stipend through the end of August now, I believe, which would pretty much cover the end of minor league season anyways. So at least these guys are getting paid pretty similarly to what they were going to get paid anyways. They're not getting that experience. So, it's a little bit of a wait and see approach too. While they're not going to get much this summer, hopefully there can be some increased fall league potential, whether it's Instructs or Arizona Fall League or some other independent leagues that pop up. But again, you have to wait and see kind of how the landscape is with COVID, and if that's something that these teams want to get behind, or if it's going to be some people that independently want to start some of these leagues up and be able to pay these players and figure out a way to get sponsor money, because you're probably still not going to be able to sell tickets and stuff like this. So, it probably in Instructs is one way to get some more players on board, and also if you're operating those, possibly selling tickets as an organization, like say the Marauders or some of these Florida State League teams could make some money back that way, because fans are going to be starved for baseball at that point. They're going to want to see anything on the minor league side, especially prospects. But they're going to see a lot of guys on the minor league side have to go out and get jobs at this point, and kind of wait till next year and see if they get picked up by a different team or re-signed by the teams that release them, or just kind of start looking around and hoping someone starts up some independent leagues and find a place for these guys to play, whether it's sanctioned by MLB or if it's completely unsanctioned, and be able to get some practice. These guys can't just they can't, minor league especially, they can't afford to go and train with the top guys, the top trainers and the gyms in the country, especially Dominican players and your non-United States players. So it's gonna be tough. There's gonna be a lot of guys that aren't getting any reps right now, and they're not gonna be able to practice, and they're not gonna be able to train, and they're gonna lose a full year. at least.
Yeah, a lot of scary times right now for some of these players, a lot of unknowns that are still out there. Obviously, a lot of us have probably already heard by now that Major League Baseball plans to, there's going to be a cut to some of the minor league baseball teams. It looks like it's going to be about 40. Talks have been going on for this for quite some time, though. It started prior to the winter meetings this past season, so it's not necessarily entirely due to COVID-19 that we're going to see a cut with some of these teams. Justin, do you think that do you think more teams will have a challenging time and have a difficult time restarting back up next year? Do you think there might be more cuts than the 40 that they're already talking about?
Yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot of contraction, whether it's Major League Baseball's forcing it, or some teams just have to file for bankruptcy or they just can't operate. So I think the landscape of minor league ball is changing no matter what. And like you said, that was already kind of in the works before COVID hit. MLB was making a power play there to, take a little bit more control of the minor league systems, which I think, in my opinion, the long-term play there is they probably want to take over minor league baseball or control everything down the road, which would be very disappointing. I, for one, would rather MiLB to stay completely separate and be independently owned by all these different owners and keep that creativity. And I just don't think it's going to work if everything falls under the MLB umbrella. But they had already identified the 40 or 42 teams that were going to possibly face contraction, but that may go back to the drawing table now, and there could be at least 40 to 42 teams that just aren't going to be able to survive this anyways, and it could work itself out. So without forcing some of these other organizations to contract when they're financially successful, or they don't want to contract. So it's interesting because there's really no agreement past this year. 2021, there's no agreement between MLB and MiLB as far as that professional baseball agreement. So as of now, there's no schedule for 2021. There's no minor league season for 2021 until that agreement gets worked out first. Even without COVID, there's been contentious talks on how that relationship's going to work.
Your personal opinion, do you think there will be a 2021 season?
There has to be. I mean, they're going to work it out. It's the same way MLB worked it out with the the Players Association. For a long time there was all that back and forth, and billionaires fighting with millionaires on whether or not to play and who's getting paid what. There has to be a minor league season next year if COVID is past that point and it's safe to do so. MLB needs a minor league system. You can't just have these guys. You can't develop guys if they're not playing anywhere. So it's going to hurt them too if there's nowhere for these guys to play and develop at. So I just think you're going to see probably some rough negotiations for a while, and it'll, you're probably going to see MiLB probably have to take the brunt of it and just accept it to be able to move on and have a season. I mean, we're July 5th today. Most teams would have their 2021 schedule already in front, or at least a working schedule already in front of them to start planning for next year. And that's obviously non-existent at this point because there's no agreement between the two entities. So,
yeah, a lot of interesting information out there right now in the baseball world and in the sports world as a whole. Justin, a lot of valuable information that you provided for all of us today. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you very much for giving us about 10 minutes of your time here to chat with us a little bit about minor league baseball.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again. It was fun.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Got it.